Beautiful. Now, importantly to consider is your actual delivery. As per the VCAR rubric, your delivery is actually worth 20% of your oral marks, or it should be. Hopefully, your school's rubric is in line with that VCAR rubric. Um, but that's a whole quarter of your marks. That's a lot. So your delivery really, really matters. You could have an amazing oral and lose a whole quarter of your marks for your delivery not being planned. Additionally, when your delivery is poor, it takes away from the quality of your actual oral. Because remember, it's being spoken when you're delivering it. So if you rushed it, your assessor could even miss that you had great, amazing ideas in there and your arguments were really interesting because your delivery was poor. So it might actually affect more than that percentage of your marks. Really important to understand. Practice in front of a mirror, practice in front of your friends, in front of your family. But overall, these are the things you should consider. Body language, have open body language. So that means not being closed off, but maintaining a good posture, looking confident, not holding those cue cards to your chest and like looking down. But, you can hold it in front of you, your arms more wide open. Use gestures, make use of hand gestures, have eye contact all around the room. If that intimidates you, you can look kind of above people's heads and it will look like you're making that eye contact. Use the space and cue cards away from body. For your voice, take pauses. When you're starting, don't even speak straight away as well. Wait for everyone to be paying attention to you. Speak slowly, change your tone, project, be loud, don't be quiet, and make use of silences, extended pauses, etc. So actually, when you've got your cue cards for your oral, make annotations of the vocal techniques that you're planning. So write down where you want to pause, write down where you want to place stress or emphasis. Unless this is something that comes to you really easy and like automatically, you should plan it out. For your cue cards, don't handwrite them. Print them in a large font with big spacing in between for your annotations. And if you would like to highlight anything, such as a part you generally forget and get stuck when you look down and you can't find it, you can bold it or underline it. You shouldn't have to memorize your speech word for word, but be very familiar with it and practice it a lot. If you get lost and you have to pause because you were just reading the whole thing and you're missing where the next part is that you have to read, that's going to really negatively impact your delivery. So you should practice it to the point that you can remember a lot of the parts of your oral and you don't have to look down for all of them and read them. Extra tips is that something that makes an oral really, really engaging, and I love to see, is when students actually pick a specific target audience and a persona for their oral. I said that you get marks for this as well, so be really mindful that if your audience is the general public and your persona is you're not likely to get full marks if that was what you're aiming for. So an example, let's say your oral was about Australian media law. So of course you want to choose a relevant stakeholder, a relevant persona, and you decided on a small news journalist. And then your target audience is big news journalists who called for the law to be passed. So that shows a really relevant persona and a really relevant audience that will make this much more interesting. Similarly, if you did vaccine hesitancy, your persona could be an ICU nurse, and then you're targeting older Australians that don't want to take the vaccine to explain to them why it's really important. Additional tips, clearly signpost in your speech. Make it clear when you're moving on to the next argument. In general, every single time you're moving on to the next argument, you should really have a pause and lower your intonation when you're getting to the end of the idea before you start the next one, to clearly indicate that the next thing that you're going to say is going to be the next argument. And it's okay to use some signposts as long as you don't overuse it. You can say things like furthermore, additionally, just like you would in an essay. And you could use bookending instead of a hook. This is where you start with an idea and it's like the first sentence or first thing you bring up in your oral, but then you close, you finish your oral with an extension of that idea. So that could be, for instance, you tell one half of a story and you don't finish it. Your whole oral goes on, and as part of your conclusion and your closing, you finish that story and provide a sort of summary of why it's important. So that's just an alternative to a hook if you really struggle to start and finish an oral and you can't think of a way to make it engaging.